Good afternoon. Welcome to the 2023 Canyons by UTMB. My name is Dylan Bowman. Yes. It's going to be an amazing weekend. Summer has arrived early here in the endurance capital of the world, Auburn, California. Again, my name is Dylan Bowman. I'm from Free Trail. We're a media entity in our wonderful sport, and I have the honor of hosting today's panel with some amazing athletes. Before we go into the panel, just a quick run of show. Of course, we're doing the elite athlete panel this afternoon, which you're all enjoying now. Tomorrow at noon, we'll be back here. Myself, Corinne Malcolm, and Sage Canaday are going to do a fun college game day meets trail running, pre-race analysis, prognostication show. That'll be at noon tomorrow. So feel free to kick back in your hotel rooms and watch it on YouTube, or come out here and hold up signs and cheer loudly for us as we try and keep everybody entertained. Saturday, of course, is going to be the race day for the 50K and the 100K. We're planning to do some fun stuff live on YouTube, on the Free Trail YouTube channel. So it's going to be a bit of an experiment. We're still ironing out the details, but stay tuned about that. And then we'll wrap up the weekend on Saturday afternoon with a post-race show, just sort of wrapping up the drama from the weekend, the golden ticket chase, look ahead towards Western States, et cetera, et cetera. A big thank you to HOKA for being the partner presenting, helping us out here with our coverage this weekend. One of the fun things that HOKA is doing is they are giving away pairs of the new Tecton X2 trail shoe as part of the Free Trail Fantasy competition. So if you go to fantasy.freetrail.com, you can make some pre-race picks in the 50K, 100K, and 100-miler, and the winner, the best predictor from each race, will receive a fresh new pair of shoes from HOKA. So thanks to HOKA for their support. My plan is to wrap out with the panel here for 40 or 45 minutes, and then we'll open it up to questions. We are streaming live on YouTube also, so I'd like to take some live questions from the audience here and also some live questions from our digital audience. Okay, with all that being said, panel, welcome, Canyons Week. Let's go down the line. Just tell us your name, where you're from, and what race you're doing this weekend.
Thanks, Dylan. Hi, everyone. I'm Heather Jackson. I kind of split time between Bend, Oregon and Tucson, Arizona. And this weekend I'm doing the 50K race on Saturday.
Cole Watson from right down the road, Rancho Cordova, California. This weekend I'm going to do the 100K.
My name is Annie Hughes, and I live in Leadville, Colorado, and I'm doing the 100-miler tomorrow. Woo.
So a bit of diversity here in terms of the race distances this weekend. Annie, I want to start with you. You have a fun story in that you were a passionate, committed runner growing up, and then you sort of found peak bagging and mountaineering in Colorado, and that was sort of your entry into the world of trail running. So maybe talk about that adventure of going and tagging all 58 14ers in Colorado and how that led you to where you are now.
Yeah, so I was dealing with a bit of an injury in college, cross country, and I was recovering from the injury and just started hiking because I couldn't run. And I did a couple 14ers. There's 58 14,000-foot peaks in Colorado, and I hiked maybe 3 of them, and I was like, wow, this is really fun. I want to climb them all. And so I ended up quitting the college cross-country team my sophomore year, and just wanted to get into like more climbing and trail running, and that kind of led me to trail ultras, and just kind of wanted to explore like the longer distances, and yeah, that's kind of how I found it.
Awesome. And you've been so successful. It's been so fun to follow. Cole, last time I saw you in person was at the finish line of the Black Canyon 100K. You bravely ran off the front there, faded a little bit to 4th place, painfully close to a golden ticket at Black Canyon. I recall at the finish line, you said something to the effect of that you melted down somewhere after halfway, but then you rallied and you finished a strong 4th place in an amazing field. So maybe tell us about that race, and more specifically, because I think it's relatable, how you were able to rally there in those hard moments and find a second wind.
Yeah, I think it's super applicable to the conditions that we're going to have out here this weekend. I just started getting a little bit hot from a hot pace, and the temperature was a little hotter than I was used to down there in Arizona. But I got a little bit sick, got into the aid station, got cooled off, got water on my head, got water everywhere, just got as cooled off as I possibly could, and my appetite came back around in the last 20 miles, and I was able to start picking some more people off, and I moved back up to fourth place, which I was happy to be within contention, but didn't quite get it done.
Yeah, well, it's awesome to witness, and here you are with another shot at it, and we'll all be eagerly watching your performance here on the local legend here on Home Trails. Heather Jackson, I feel like nobody in the world is having more fun than you in the world of professional sports. So maybe first, just tell everybody what you've been up to. This is only your third ultramarathon this weekend. Last time we saw you, you finished an amazing second place at Black Canyon. And since then, you've been very busy. So maybe catch the audience up who doesn't follow you quite as closely as I do.
Thanks, Dylan. So I'm coming off of about 15 years racing Ironman triathlon. So I raced Kona last year and kind of knew I just needed to do something new. And this season I've been kind of trying to balance both some cycling, gravel racing, and the trail running. So I'm just, like you said, having an amazing time. I'm literally enjoying every single day, the training for both, the racing, and I just feel like I'm in the best headspot I've been in a while, just with such new things to go after. So
this is your first 50K. Typically in ultra running, you go 50K, 50 mile, 100K, 100 mile. You went 100 mile, 100K, 50K. So you're always doing things in maybe a non-traditional way, which is one of the things I think people really love about you. But maybe tell us how you're feeling ahead of your first 50K, what you learned from Javelina and Black Canyon that maybe you're hoping to do better here.
Yeah, so I raced a 100-miler at Javelina and then 100K at Black Canyon. And coming off Javelina at Black Canyon, I was like, okay, don't go out too hard. Inevitably, that happened again. So that is one lesson I'm maybe trying to implement on Saturday. But I also am kind of like, well, 50K, like that's half a Black Canyon. So we'll see. Honestly, I wanted to come to this. I've just heard amazing things. I've never been here. I've never been to Western States area. Part of coming here was just to be able to check out the area, check out some of the trails, kind of see what's ahead for June. So it's amazing here. I've been here all week. The trails are absolutely, like, Waddy and I, my husband, drove in and we were just like, wow, like fell in love with it. So yeah, I'm just so excited to be out on the trails on Saturday. And yeah.
This is sacred ground for trail runners. And I want to ask you more about Western States in a little bit, not to get ahead of ourselves here. But Annie, back to you. We just put out a video on the Free Trail YouTube channel about your training at home in Leadville. And in the video, you said that you had just done the Behind the Rocks 50 miler. You happened to run it a full 2 hours faster than you did last time. So maybe talk about what you think led to that breakthrough and how that 50-mile success helped springboard you to something like the Canyons 100-miler this weekend.
Yeah, so, sorry, is this on? Okay. So I ran my first race of the season last month, the Behind the Rocks 50-miler, and it took over 2 hours off my time at that same race from 2 years ago. So that was exciting, but I think a lot of things played into that. Just like the first year, I took a wrong turn and added on like 2 miles. And then I wasn't feeling that great the week, or like the whole couple weeks leading up to the race, and I had some sort of infection, and so I took these antibiotics and ended up being allergic to the antibiotics, and so I like broke out in hives. But the antibiotics also kind of helped, so I like ran the race covered in hives. It was also like really hot that year, so a lot of things played into that. And now I just have like more experience and ran a smarter race and didn't get off the course. It actually felt good going into it. But I also feel like my training has gone really well this block, and feeling in good shape for the race tomorrow. So.
Awesome. But how do you use like that 50-mile race as a springboard towards the 100-miler? Do you view it as just like a stepping stone part of your training? Were you aiming towards this race more or less?
Yeah. It was a good like checkpoint just to see where I'm at, and I think running 50 miles is a really good training run for a 100-miler. So it was a good distance out where I could recover and still put in a good couple weeks of training for this race. But yeah, I definitely put my all into that race, but it was also like a good training run and checkpoint.
Awesome. So Cole, back to you. Like I said, you took a big swing at Black Canyon. You were off the front, probably one of the most competitive golden ticket races of all time. You raced super duper well. Obviously, like I just mentioned, you faded a little bit, finished fourth, painfully close to that golden ticket. But in the video that we just released about you, you talked about taking big swings and taking risks. And maybe for our audience here, I thought it might be interesting to have you talk about the balance there between racing smart, racing intelligent, and taking risks.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like being a good gambler, in the words of the late, great Kenny Rogers, you got to know when to hold them and when to fold them and when to run and all that. So that's kind of what it's about, taking your experiences. I've run these golden ticket races like every different way imaginable. From the front, I've sat back a little bit somewhere, in between, and then it, just never moving at all. I think my Javelina 100 miler in 2021 was a good example of that. Ran in third place all day and nothing changed. Nobody came back, nothing. So I think the advantage of, this weekend is I do live close. I'm fortunate enough to be out here multiple times a week, and I know, how long everything lasts, and as far as like climbs and descents and what efforts I can put forth on those trails. So it's just going to be a balanced attack.
Yep. Always a balancing act. Heather, this is a trail running race, but we have to talk about cycling with you. It's part of your story and really interesting, I think, for the audience here. Recently, you were third at the Mid-South gravel race, then you won the Belgian waffle ride, an incredible victory, world class at both trail running and gravel racing. And then it seems like you had a tough day at Sea Otter, which is a mountain bike race. So maybe for those of us who aren't professional cyclists, if you could explain just the technical skills required between the gravel racing scene, the mountain bike scene, any learnings you had there at Sea Otter.
Oh man, yeah. That was, to be fair, I feel like I let down the triathletes with my Sea Otter performance, and I don't think my placing maybe reflected how I can mountain bike, but once again I got a little carried away at the start, and I tried to slide up the inside and wiped out like 500 meters in. So early on I missed the right turn into the single track, was caught way at the back, and was all day trying to catch up. Went down numerous times in the sand pits, but like to your question, I find between the gravel cycling and the trail running, it's so similar of like picking your line and where to place your foot and where to like maybe work the berms or the banks and like use those to keep your momentum going. And trail running, it's a bit easier. You're on your own 2 feet. The mountain biking this past weekend was, yeah, you're also bombing down so fast that you have to like also carry your weight on the mountain bike to certain sides of the trail. And so anyways, yeah. Not my best day out, but it was super fun, and yeah, mountain biking is a whole different beast.
Yeah, like I said, even on the tough days, it feels like you're having more fun than anybody in the world right now, which is amazing. So Annie, you're running that 100-miler, which starts at 9 a.m. tomorrow, just around the corner here. It seems like for you, the 100-milers are sort of routine, where for most of us, they're life-changing bucket list experiences. Of course, you were the reigning champion at the Cocodona 250. You have multiple 200-plus mile finishes under your belt. If you could just maybe explain to those of us who haven't experienced it, what's the difference between kind of like the 100K, 100-mile experience and then going further than that, 200, 250?
Yeah, I would say, it's a lot more chill atmosphere at the 200s, which I kind of like. And, like you can hike a bit more and sleep a little bit. So I would say that's the biggest thing is like, it's like a 100-miler. It doesn't feel any harder than a 100-miler, but it just lasts like days longer, and you don't really sleep that much. So yeah, I would say that the sleep is probably the biggest difference, like just being so deprived rest. So, but yeah, other than that, it's a really fun adventure, and it's my favorite distance by far.
So why don't you just double back after you finish on Sunday and start over again? Just kidding.
No, hundreds are definitely really hard.
Yeah. Cole, back to you. You're a HOKA athlete, obviously, and I know your wife works for HOKA, and I know you credit her in a lot of ways for getting you into trail running. You, of course, come from the more traditional road and track scene, and you have so much talent, but maybe give a shout out to your wife and what she did to influence you to get into this amazing community.
Yeah, definitely. I met my wife Jocelyn when we were in school up in Oregon working at a running store in Ashland, and her and a lot of the coworkers there, they really pushed me, to give trail running a try after I graduated from running track and field. And then, I came down here, ran some races, and just fell in love with this place. And she was originally from here, so we relocated back here to the Sacramento-Auburn area. And I didn't realize what new life could be kind of breathed into my running from the trails. It just opened up a whole new adventurous world, and I love it.
It seems like you spend a lot of time on the river too, casting flies. And I know there's a subculture of trail runners who are fly fishermen. So maybe tell the audience about that sort of side passion you have and maybe how it supports your lifestyle as a trail runner.
Yeah, they actually got races called flyathons where you have to catch a fish and take a picture of it and then release it before you finish like a 10K or a half marathon or something. I have yet to get my HOKA travel budget approved for those races, but maybe in another life I'll embark on that.
Yeah, we'll have to connect after the fact. That sounds like a fun YouTube video to make for Free Trail too. Heather, back to you. Of course, we just mentioned you're going to be back here racing Western States in June, one of the most important races in the world. You're here in Auburn. You said that you've seen the race course a little bit. Not to get too far ahead of ourselves, I know you're really looking forward to 50K this weekend, but you come in as one of the most interesting storylines, I think, of the Western States 100 this year. And so I'm just wondering what it feels like to be here in Auburn, to see the Western States course, and any thoughts that come to your mind as you look ahead towards June.
Yeah, honestly, the first thing that comes to my mind is how I can just feel I don't know what the right word is, the passion here and the history and everything. For me, it honestly feels like when I went to Kona the first time, probably 10 years ago, and the same feel there where you're on the island, you have those aloha vibes, you have that community that if you connect to and you give back to that community, then they will bring good spirits to you on race day. And coming here, it's the same. I just feel like all week I've been learning about the course, learning about this town, meeting people in the community, and I have those same feels that I had. And so I couldn't be more excited about that because it makes a race that you want to go after and focus on and give everything you have to care that much, to have those special feelings here is I'm just beyond excited. We're 8 weeks out, and for me, when I focus in on Kona, it's 8 weeks to go is the time you just head down and it's everything towards it. So part of that was here, I'm racing Saturday as hard as I can, but it's also the 8 weeks out mark. And so, yeah, all eyes on June 24th.
And for our digital audience, it's going to be 90 degrees for the athletes on the trails this weekend. So it is sort of a Western States dress rehearsal in a lot of ways for some of these athletes, which is going to be great. Heather, I'd also love to hear about your training recently. Obviously, the last few races you've done have been on the bike, which probably requires a lot of focused cycling training. But of course, with Western States and obviously this Canyon stepping stone on your calendar, you probably have to do some running. So any visibility you can give us into your training, how much run volume are you doing and how much cycling volume, and how does that change based on the race that you have ahead of you?
Yeah, I think so. Coming from triathlon, I have the experience of riding and running as my overall volume. So admittedly, the last 3 weeks have been very high cycling, and the running mileage dropped a bit. I think I was still able to hold maybe 40 to 50 miles a week. One day was longer. Prior to that, I had put in a pretty good block of the most I've really gotten up to in my transition since Kona has really been right around that 70 to 80 mile mark. So not, I guess, in runners' worlds, too crazy. I am cycling a lot though, so I'm cycling 300 to 400 miles a week. So the last 3 weeks has been heavy cycling that I'm just hoping will continue the endurance on the day. And then May into June is going to be back to hopefully more consistent across the two. But the cycling for me helps mentally of like, okay, I still think of it as the same like hour by hour. So however many hours we're out on Saturday, it's like going on a 4-hour ride, a 5-hour ride, a 6-hour ride. So we'll see. This will actually be a good test of how the cycling, I guess.
I was going to say, like, you're kind of doing an experiment for so many people around the world right now of like, how much cycling can I do in my run training to perform in ultra marathons? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who would like to reduce their run volume, spend some time on a bike. So let us know what you learn. Yeah. Annie, back to you. We're here in Auburn. You live in Leadville, Colorado, another town that's sacred in trail running. You are positioned at 10,000 feet, buried under snow this winter. Maybe tell us how you're able to get through the winter months training there, what overall it's like to live in Leadville with that history and tradition of trail ultramarathon running, and anything you did specifically to prepare for this hotter, drier course when you live so high in the snow.
Yeah, so I'm definitely a one-trick pony. I only run, and I feel like a lot of people ski in the winter in Leadville. I'm like not one of those people, so I'm like constantly like running the same few roads that are plowed in Leadville in the winter. But there are some trails, like some snowmobile trails that are groomed, and some like fat tire bike trails. And when those are hard packed, those are really nice to run on. So a lot of running on snow, and I probably wouldn't survive the winters there if I didn't have Buena Vista, Colorado, which is just like about 30 minutes down the road. And the trails down there stay pretty dry year round. So I'm able to get to those trails 2 or 3 times a week. And that's kind of what gets me through. But yeah, the history in Leadville is really special, like to be a part of. And I've gotten to meet so many cool people through living there, like all the runners that come into town. So yeah, it's been a special experience for me so far, and especially like running the Leadville 100 myself, and having the support from the community was really cool. So yeah, I love it there.
Such a great town. So maybe some broader questions that I'd love to get each one of you to weigh in on, maybe starting with some practical tips for our audience here. I'd love it if you would each maybe provide your favorite workout or session that you do leading up to canyons. Like, what is the interval session or workout or long run that you do when you need to build confidence? Anything that comes to mind? Maybe Annie, we can start with you.
I'm a big fan of the back-to-back long runs. So kind of like a 20-mile run at like a harder effort on trails, followed by like a easy 30-miler the next day. Also on trails or like with some good vert. So yeah, those are kind of my favorite workouts to do leading up to like longer races.
Do you do any like intensity sessions?
Yeah, I'll do some like flat tempos. And it's kind of sporadic. Like sometimes I'll be like, oh, I'm feeling good today. Like I'm gonna do some like intervals on a hill or something. But it's not like I don't have a training plan or anything. It's just like when I know I need to like get these certain workouts in, but when I do them is kind of up to me. And it also depends on the weather too. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do this tomorrow, and then it's like huge snowstorm. I literally can't like do intervals on the road. So yeah, it changes a bit.
Cole, what about you?
I don't know if it's really any one single workout. I mean, I'm confident in my ability to climb. I'm confident in my ability to run flat and steady pretty well, but where I need the work is the descending. So like I'll do a series of workouts where I'm doing a brisk downhill interval straight into an uphill one, and like over the course of the block, when I notice that downhill descending isn't taking such a eccentric pounding on my muscles, and I'm recovered to just go straight back up and not feel so funky. I know that I'm ready for a hilly race.
Heather, this will be interesting too. Maybe the favorite running workout and cycling workout.
Well, all spring, all this year, there's, I feel lucky down in Tucson, there's a group ride on Saturdays. It's called the Shootout. You can make it anywhere from 80 miles up to like 140 miles. So Saturdays I ride long, usually about 120 miles. And then I'll do a 30-minute run off that at race pace. So try to push those 30 minutes, really tires the legs out Saturday, and then get up on Sunday and do a longer run. So I think those big weekends for me really tire the legs out and give me the confidence I'm, tiring the legs in a more time manner than necessarily certain running mileage. The Sunday runs, I've been trying to work in more of the downhill, like Cole was saying, more of the technical, because that's definitely, I saw Black Canyons, how much that really affects it. So, trying to add in those rocky, people who know Tucson, I was going over Sabino Canyon area, there's some rocky kind of trails over there, and it's so different than just like doing a standard Sunday run. So that's been the last month trying to work that in.
Really great. Hope that helps everybody out there. So I wanted to also maybe pull a question here from our live chat on YouTube just about heat mitigation. I think probably each of you will have something valuable to share here just in terms of the strategy you may be employing this weekend. Maybe Heather, we can start with you on this one. I know you have history dealing with heat in Kona too, so let us know what you're planning to do.
Yeah, the heat, it's crazy. It's hotter than I was expecting for sure. I think the biggest thing is just staying on top of your hydration early, like before you even think you need to be. Really front load it. Really take in as much electrolytes and drink as you can early on. In terms of cooling strategy, I remember the first couple times at hot races, I would wear just like a sports bra or tank top and be like, oh yeah, it's gonna be cooler. Actually wear like a shirt now or longer sleeves that you can tuck in, because you can get the ice to stay in there if you tuck it into your shorts. And so if there's ice out there, to get that in there, get it down your bra, get it in your shirt, cool off your hands, even holding ice in your hands and your feet are the two, I guess, external points that can really make your body feel cooler holding that. So holding something cold, even if it's a bottle. And then on top of your head, obviously, every aid station, getting rid of the heat. Like in Kona, it's always about just expel the heat, get it off you. So grabbing every time. Those are the main ones, I think.
Anything you guys want to add?
I think just piggybacking on what Heather said, just starting early with the ice and the getting water on your head and your core. I think the third or fourth aid station's Brown's Bar. You go up, maybe it's a mile-long climb, but all along that climb, it's shaded. There's several creek crossings. Dip your hat in there. Not at all of them probably, but at least one, because they come pretty frequent. But there are several creeks along that ALT section where you can, it's 6 inches of water. You can, splash it on yourself or get your hat wet.
I'm definitely not heat acclimated living in Leadville. I literally just left a snowstorm, so I am just gonna try to stay ahead of hydration and all that, and just take really good care of myself. Just like Heather was saying, all the ice and electrolytes, just staying on top of all that stuff is gonna be key.
Another thing that I thought might be interesting to talk about that was probably practical for the audience here is kind of calendar construction and how you guys think about setting goals for the season and goals that kind of fit together well. So maybe, Annie, we started talking with you about the Behind the Rocks race leading into canyons. So if there's anything you want to add about the greater macro architecture of your your racing calendar, how you formulate those plans, how you set those goals, and how you make sure it all fits together.
Yeah, so I feel like I'm doing a smarter job of that this year. Last year I kind of got a little carried away. Just with, I wanted to do Cocodona, and then I did a 100-miler in January as kind of a training race for that, and then I did a 12-hour race at the Running Up for Air, Colorado. And did about 56 miles there. And yeah, so I had a couple races leading into the 250, and then that was kind of a lot in itself. And then I had High Lonesome 100 in Colorado, Run Rabbit 100, and Javelina 100 all after that. So it just ended up being like a pretty big year. And I was pretty tired by the last one. But this year, I feel like my calendar kind of flows well, like with that Behind the Rocks race is prep for this 100-miler. And then I just felt like the climbing, and it's a good distance away from the Hard Rock 100. I'm doing that in July. And so that flows well into that. And then I'm doing the Swiss Peaks 360K in Switzerland. So it's about 230 miles. And I just felt like all the climbing and long 100-mile races will kind of flow well into that. So that's kind of how I put together my year.
Cole, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think it's just you want every block to kind of build off of each other. You got to break it into quarters, and you can't just be running at a high level or a high volume the entire year. Or, if you're a 100-miler, you're wanting each race that you run, if it's 100K, to be the long run almost for that next big one. We don't have enough training time or recovery time to, be running massive long runs before 100K or 100-milers. So, I think that, the last quarter of your year, do something a little bit different. If you've just been doing a bunch of hilly races all year long, enter a road marathon or work on, speed and things like that. It's just going to be mentally, a fresh turn the page type moment. Yeah.
Love it. And again, Heather, I think you're going to have a really interesting answer here. Your season is as complicated and as busy as it could possibly be. So it seems like for you, you're sort of following instinct, following fun and motivation, but anything you can add about setting goals as somebody who's been a professional athlete for 15 plus years across multiple sports?
Yeah, I think I definitely have approached this year similar to how I've approached Kona the last, say, 10 years. So your main goal. Kona was my main goal, the second Saturday in October, and you work back from there. And I know that 8 to 10 weeks out from Kona, all eyes are on Kona, and everything is towards kind of 3 to 4 week blocks, kind of dialing in specificity for that. Prior to that, I would use maybe a half Ironman in prep. So for me, similarly now, we're 8 weeks out from Western States, and I thought that this would be a good opportunity to come here, almost similar to using a half Ironman as a training day. This will be one of my longest days out, pushing 50K hard, and so using that in the block towards June. In terms of the start of this year, it was more kind of just base building, putting in the miles, putting in, cycling and running. I used Black Canyons as a very long day, almost 9-hour day in February. People had also said that that's a good kind of simulation of Western States terrain somewhat, and so to get out on similar courses, so trying to work those into the blocks. But I knew at the start of the year that June was the big goal, and so I just worked back from there in the calendar and plug in key things that I want to maybe hit en route. So.
Really great. Thanks for sharing that, guys. Maybe last question before we open it up to the audience. So if you have questions, think about it. We'll get to you in just a sec. We all know that this is a team sport more than it appears when you're out there doing battle solo on the trails. So maybe just in closing, if you want to shout out an individual or a group of people who've helped get you to the start line this weekend.
Waddy, my husband, he's with me every second of every day, getting me through literally everything. And my puppy, Stevie, and HOKA. I've been with HOKA for almost 10 years. And so to have their support and especially into this new, segment of my career, I couldn't be more grateful.
I gotta thank my wife Jocelyn. I mean, she's the crew, part of the crew that never leaves my sight, and then the crew that I've had pretty consistently for most of my races: Dirk Manley, Elka Raymer, Chloe Romero, and Reed Brewer. They're going to be out there this weekend. I really appreciate you guys.
I'm sorry. I really appreciate my mentor, Olga. She's been crewing all my races and has been in the sport for a really long time and an amazing runner herself. And yeah, I would not be where I'm now without her support and her guidance and her help with crewing me, getting through the aid stations quickly, and just making all my pace charts, like the plan. Yeah, it's just been so huge, and I couldn't do this without you. So.
Shout out Olga, Wadi, HOKA, Jocelyn, etc. Crews are the best. Questions from our audience here for our esteemed panel here. This is an amazing opportunity to pull nuggets of wisdom from some of the sport's best. Feel free. Yes, you can. This is the mayor of Auburn, everybody. Thank you for hosting us.
Thank you. I kind of sprung this on him. I came over and said, could I say a few things? But I just wanted to say a big shout out and welcome to everyone to Auburn. We are the endurance capital of the world, and we're so pleased to have you out here today. I am a trail runner, but these days the only races I enter are the political ones, so you're all safe. You guys are safe up here. You don't have to worry about me out there, you know. But I hope that you all have a fantastic run. I'll be at the start of each of the races, just saying 2 seconds of get out there and do a great job. But I wanted to thank you for coming out to the expo. Thanks to the panel of experts. You guys are awesome. Everyone that's out here that's running and crewing, you guys are awesome. And we're just, again, so happy to have you in Auburn, the endurance capital of the world. And thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.
All right. Amazing endorsement for the endurance capital. Thank you, Madam Mayor. That was amazing. You had your hand up.
Well, you talked about this a little bit, but like dealing with downhill workouts and eccentric muscle stuff and then going into climbing, how do you build up to that in ultra training or longer runs, things like that? What do you find other workouts?
Let me just restate that, Cole, because we're capturing it too. So the question was about, Cole had mentioned earlier about doing downhill workouts into uphill workouts. The question was more or less, how does that eccentric training help you out in the greater training strategy, more or less? I didn't state that perfectly. It was a great question. I butchered it, but Cole got it. He'll answer it well.
Yeah, I think that the best segue to, graduate into those like uphill, downhill type workouts is just not shying away from like multiple humped runs in your training. Like if you're looking at a profile, like don't just do an uphill, downhill run. Like I used to live in Ashland, and a lot of the runs were just, you'd run 5 miles up, and then the rest of the run was just too easy, so like my coach would be having me like go back up to the top and make sure you have more of like a canyon in and out type profile. You just do that on a long run, you do that in your regular recovery runs, eventually you'll be ready to attack it in a workout.
Go ahead.
One thing that's kind of through my head a little bit is the 9 a.m. start tomorrow morning. Like most of the 100 milers start at 5 or 6 a.m. What are you going to do differently tomorrow morning to accommodate sleeping in not
It's a great question for Annie here about the 9 a.m. start time tomorrow. Typically races like Western States or Leadville are like 4 or 5 a.m. So Annie, what do you do? Do you sleep in? What's your breakfast routine? How do you like the 9 a.m. start?
To be honest, I am not a morning person. I like really struggle to get up before like 8 a.m. So I'm stoked about the 9 a.m. start. And yeah, I'm gonna get a really good night's sleep tonight. I feel like with the early starts, I don't get as good a night's sleep, just because I'm like anxious, like, oh, I have to get up early, and what if my alarm doesn't go off, like all those things. So yeah, I like the later starts, and just gives you time to like wake up and take your time eating breakfast, go to the bathroom, like just more relaxed pace. So yeah.
I did a 70K in Japan last weekend that started at 11 a.m. It was bizarre, bizarre. Let's see, there's got to be more questions from the audience here. Please feel free to raise your hand. We still have a little bit of time before the pre-race briefing. I'm sure there's got to be one or two more questions from the audience. Maybe we'll go with just sort of the typical stuff here before we wind down. Obviously, it is going to be a warm race this weekend. Heather, you talked about like front loading, hydration. How do you think about sort of like the electrolytes, nutrition side of things too? Like, is there anything else that you adjust when you're expecting 90-degree weather nutritionally?
I think For me, I work off of grams of carbs per hour that I'm trying to get in calorically and just for fueling wise. But then on a hot day, like say you have to adjust the amount of actual liquid you're getting in as well, and maybe even just separate electrolytes. So on a cold race, you could just put whatever it is, 70, 80 grams in a bottle in just one bottle. But something like this, maybe you want to get those 80 grams of carbs over 2 bottles. So just figuring out, for me, the next couple today is going to be about, how I'm going to allocate that in maybe more bottles than I would have otherwise.
Cole or Annie, anything you want to add there?
I think, more or less, what you said, just if you get too hot, your stomach's going to go. So you need to cool off your head, cool off your core, and your appetite will come back around.
Yeah, and I would say just like having that balance of, the salt and water, and, if you start to feel like bloated, you oversalted, and if you start to feel like nauseous, you like overhydrated and need more salt. So, just finding that balance in the heat is important.
And maybe also too, like Annie's saying, like you can come around so easily and so quickly, but not forgetting that out there if you are going through a bad patch, because I've had horrible days in really hot races where you think you're just done because you're cramping and you're super thirsty or you didn't get enough in. But if you just slow down and take the time to get it in with 5, 10, 20 minutes, you can come around. So to keep that in your mind and not just give up and write the day off, but know that, okay, take the time to listen to yourself and get in what you need, and then you could be off and running again.
Beautiful advice. Thank you guys so much. Last call for any questions. Throw up your hand if you have one. Okay, big round of applause for our esteemed panel, Heather Jackson, Cole Watson, Annie Hughes. A big thank you to HOKA for making this race possible and making our coverage possible. We are going to be back here at noon tomorrow, myself, Corinne Malcolm, Sage Canaday, with a race preview live stream. Feel free to come join us in person. And stay cool, stay dry. Good luck this weekend.